What's up, YouTube? Welcome back. Banged my head on my lift today, and it was a gusher. First time I've banged my head and just started pumping blood. Maybe it's because the humidity in my skin was so soft. I'm not sure. But I banged it, and I usually like fall to the ground and then get back up, but I didn't fall to the ground, and I felt it, and then I felt it running down my face, and I'm like, damn. So I didn't need stitches, but today was a brutal day. Saturday we're 7:30 to 12. We had work in the shop. Caleb was back. Sierra was back. Jude was off. And we were greeted at 7:15 with our first customer of the day, who works at a gas station, and said, hey, you're the owner? Yeah. I'm coming in to get some brake work. Bring his car in, and we check it all out and tell him what it needs. And then he's got brakes that are good on the right side of the car, like really good in the front. And then he's got grinding on the left side with no sliced seized sliders, and no stuck brake pads. 200,000 mile Honda Odyssey. So I was like, all right, I want a brake hose, and I want a caliper, and I want new pads and rotors. The backs were okay. Then we pointed out that the converter's ready to fall off, the flex pipe's already leaking, there's front end noise, the windshield's cracked, the bumper's falling off, the rear shock skirts are rusted off. And then I noticed that the drain plug is leaking oil. So then I went up there and talked to him and said, listen, we're going to talk about why you're here, and then we're going to tell you about all these other things that we see. And I said, I'm going to start with the drain plug. He's like, yeah, another shop, and this, that, and the other thing. Said they couldn't fix the threads in the aluminum oil pan, and blah, 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 blah. And I said, the only time I replace oil pans here is if they're smashed or rusted out. I said, other than that, we helicoil them, we repair them, we put threads in them, we put helper ones in it. It's very often that I have to replace an oil drain plug because there's no threads left. Very, very, almost never. So then I tell April what the required items are to restore his front brakes to safe conditions. And then after like 2 hours of him sitting there, I'm like wondering what's going on. It's getting late. It's like he's him-hawing around about getting his brakes fixed. I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. Your brakes are grinding. It's not a whole lot of work. A hose, a caliper, pads, and rotors. And finally he approves it, but he doesn't want the brake hose done. I'm like, what do you mean he doesn't want the brake hose? The customer doesn't tell us how to fix his car. And as soon as the customer starts telling you how he wants his car fixed, button it up, back it out. End of story. We had another customer who called, I'll get back to this Honda, 2 weeks ago, and said, hey, I want a purge valve. I don't want a diagnostic, blah, 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 blah. We ordered from the dealership. And then the story turns out that she didn't want to buy our battery because it was too expensive. Her dad put it in, blew the main fuse in the car, had it towed in. We diagnosed what it was, put the fuse back in, got the car steering and air conditioner working. The horn was blown out. The radio wasn't working. We never even got into those parts of the car. And then she calls today and says the purge valve we stuck in her car is defective and she doesn't want to pay another diagnostic charge. First of all, you didn't want to pay a diagnostic charge for us to figure out why your engine light was on. Plus, you had it towed in with blown battery voltage, so we would never know what the problem was. We already pre-ordered the purge valve because that's what you wanted. And then you call bitching and saying that the purge valve we sold you is defective. That doesn't usually happen with OEM Kia or Hyundai purge valves out of the box. So that's going to be a story for next week that I'm going to have to deal with these people. It's not going to be pretty. And they're asking me why the horn doesn't work. I was like, we got your car running. We didn't go through every feature. And it's not our fault that your dad put the battery in backwards, blew the horn circuit, and blew your radio. We got the car running, driving, steering, and air conditioning working. We didn't check your creature comforts, but it is what it is. So she brought it back. We diagnosed that the horn was burned out. She's like, oh, it worked before I brought it here. It worked before your father fried your electrical system. And the radio worked too. Yep, before your father fried the electrical system. So this is going to be a fun boxing match, and I might have to get down and dirty with these people. But back to the Honda person, he says to April, I basically told her I didn't even want to do the job, but I'm already into it. And I'm thinking the guy's fixing it almost right. I didn't even recommend both hoses and both calipers on a 200,000 mile Honda. And I said, April, you should have just said, we don't do work like that. Go back to whoever has been fixing your car And he's like, I just don't understand why my car is in this condition. Well, problem one is you. Problem two is the mechanic that you're going to. So either you two aren't talking or he's not telling you what's going on with your car. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. So either he's not telling you what's going on with your car, or he doesn't know what he's doing, or he's telling you, and then we'll just use this finger. You're the guy that's saying you don't want to fix anything. Hence the condition of your car, right? They stripped your oil drain plug out. They said that they fixed it. They didn't. Your front end's making noise. Your brakes are jacked up. Your rear shocks are jacked up. Your windshield's broke. You're leaking oil. It's pretty obvious your car's got problems. So then he says it's a shop around the corner from me who's his regular mechanic. It is what it is. I don't know his side of the story, but I know the customer side of the story. Your vehicle is in the condition it is for two reasons. You and your regular mechanic. And if you two aren't communicating on what's going on with your car, then boom, it is a surprise when you go to a shop that's not afraid to tell you everything that's wrong with your car. Of course, we're here for your original Crest, but we don't want you leaving our shop and your engine blowing up because your drain plug's leaking from the last place you changed your oil. And trust me, people, I've had customers say, don't worry about the drain plug. Don't add any oil to my car, and I just want my car back. Yeah, not much I can do besides educate people. This is the same customer, this Honda Odyssey, that says his wife told him to go buy a new car, go across the street to the used car dealership and buy a new car. They are not new cars. They are new cars to you, and those cars have problems just like your car, no doubt. So if you can't afford to repair what you have, you're going to making a car payment on a used car that's still going to have problems. You are not buying any new car today off the dealer lot that doesn't have software problems, recall problems, fire hazard problems. You're going to have at least 5 problems with a brand new car in the first year or 2 that you own it. They're all covered, but it's problems. What do you think is going to happen to that car after that? You're going to have the same problems again. And problems that aren't covered. So when he said he was just going to go buy another car, I was like, well, you can't take care of this car. What makes you think that you're going to take care of a car at $500 a month car payment, plus insurance, plus? Well, you're not going to go buy a new car because the average new car today is $500 to $700 a month, on and on and on. So when he said he had another mechanic, he's shocked that his car has all these problems because he's went to another mechanic around the corner, and he didn't go there because they're not open on Saturdays, and we are, you know. And then he spent $2,000 4 years ago at this other shop, and he doesn't understand why he has brake problems. Well, you have a 200,000-mile vehicle. Anything can happen. So what did he did your brakes front and rear? It's 2 years later. Did they miss a caliper at that point in time? It's possible, but who knows? It's your vehicle. You have to take ownership of it. And if something fails, it's on you. Most places don't give you a lifetime guarantee on the entire job, and if they do, they would be out of business. So needless to say, that was a headache dealing with this individual, and most people are. And then getting the phone call from the other people that said that they want a purge valve and don't want to pay for a diagnostic and blah, 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 blah. We only did what you asked, and then now you're a sour ass about it. I can't wait to deal with these people. So then the parts house for the Honda Odyssey, so this story gets even better. The parts house thought it was a 16 when it was a 6 or 7 and kept sending me the wrong parts. And mind you, this guy was there at 7:30. He was there before he opened, and he didn't leave till 12 o'clock. Parts house kept sending the wrong shit. I said, finally, after 3 hours into the job, call another vendor. So it was a caliper rotor on the left side, and then a pads and rotors on the right-hand side. So once I assembled the left-hand side, there was a caliper and rotor that fit together. So on the newer ones, the rotor and caliper are bigger on a 17-inch wheel. This had a 16-inch wheel. So I went to put the wheel on. Guess what I didn't do before this? I didn't match my parts. Amateur mistake. Lots going on. This guy distracted me with his bullshit. So then we got the other side. We're like, all right, the rotor's too big, doesn't fit the caliper that's presently on the car. We got the wrong rotor. They sent another one. It's wrong. We don't understand. Call another vendor. Tell them what we got. They listened to us because they said it was an 07 or a 6. They got the rotor right the first time. So then I call that shop and said, I'm sick of your bullshit with your parts and the quality of your stuff. And he's like, well, someone told me it was a 16. No, you weren't listening. We called another vendor with the same information, and they got it right the first time. So the same vendor, we call them for the rotor and the caliper, and they don't have a driver, so we send Sierra to go pick it up. She comes back, and what do? They send me a right caliper instead of a left caliper, and I couldn't make it work, and you can make it work, but I didn't make it work, so I had to send her back because they fucked up.
A whole different vendor.
Yeah, a whole different vendor. So one vendor fucked up, another vendor was doing good, and then in the end they fucked up again.
But not their fault. The right caliper was in the left box.
The right caliper was in the left box, is what the story was, whatever the case. So finally we get that it box all assembled up and him on his way, and then he can go back to his regular mechanic and torture him. Or when his exhaust system, I told him when his exhaust system falls off, it's going to cost you quadruple the money to fix it because there's probably nothing I'm going to be able to save. Right now I could save you money, on that. Right now I could fix your oil pan too for you, so you don't have to buy a new oil pan. Healy coil it, or put oversized threads in it, put a helper plug in it. There's many things we can do that I do every day in our shop, and on your way and get out of my hair. Yeah, all that in 5 hours today. A bunch of bullshit for a Saturday, but we did pretty good. April knocked it out of the park. We had a lot of customers trying our patience. A lot of good customers who just want it fixed right and don't care what it costs. A lot of customers welcoming that we saved them tons of money. Another customer was at another shop, and the other shop did oxygen sensors on it and said he didn't know what was wrong with the car. The customer took it to the dealership. The dealership said that it was $800 for one oxygen sensor, and why are you fixing this old car? And they tried to sell him a new car. And mind you, this car is actually in pretty good shape, even though it's a little older. So then he asked me, because he was at my shop before, for new headlight assemblies and exhaust system work, and he said, hey, can you just get me straightened out? I said, well, let me look at it. I don't understand why he didn't come back to me to have it looked at, but he went back to the guy who did the oxygen sensors. He didn't really have an answer for him. Went to the dealership. The dealership said, yeah, the downstream oxygen sensors are a problem, and this is what I'm getting, and he didn't want to pay $800 for an oxygen sensor. It was a downstream slow response, and I made some recommendations and said, hey, if this slow response code doesn't go away, we need to dig further into it, change the oxygen sensor, reset the adaptives, clean the throttle body, do a fuel injection service, just catch it up on some missing maintenance or work. And I said, hey, the car needs some sway bar links. They're not horrible. And then I said, well, let's just get past this. And, welcoming us to keeping an eye on our car and keeping it on the road. So hopefully that goes all well. Like I said, April knocked it out in the park this week. Rachel's on vacation. It was good to have Caleb back in the shop. Sierra is going to be an excellent technician or a body person. She is eager, hungry, listens, follow directions. Cute as a little button. Jude showed up. He left his school early today, which he was playing Lube Tech at Ford. Hopefully he'll be back full-time next year. Jude did a cam and head swap on his motor without me babysitting, and he's had some issues. Took it to a tuner, paid him to look it over. Finally, I get to look the car over. Spark plug wires loose, wire harness rubbing on the belt. This was a recommended tuner, not our regular tuner, and yeah, I don't know why he paid $200 to have the guy look it over and really didn't look it over.
Jude's car or Cam's?
Jude's. Like, when Jude opened the hood, the spark plug wire was just barely hanging onto the spark plug. Like, this dude got paid to look the car over, right? And if you're tuning the car, you want to make sure that the wires... And it was obvious. I watched the engine run, and the wire's wiggling like the spark plug is loose. It's, for an experienced guy, it should be like an obvious. Or, hey, Jude, this wire harness is rubbing on the belt here.
Right.
I'm just going to secure it for you, Some simple stuff. So I would never recommend this guy to tune another car ever again. And then Jude's got some excessive valve train noise on his engine because he didn't check many things when he did his cam swap, again, when I wasn't there. So he had to pull it apart, put a new oil pump in it. And then finally the car's back to me after the guy finished up his tune, and the valve train is rattly and it's not adjustable. And I said, pull a valve cover, we stick a feeler gauge under, cylinder 1, and the valves are at top dead center, and he's got at least 20 thousandths lash. So I don't know if he's got a problem inside already. I don't think so, but since he's did aftermarket heads, aftermarket cams, aftermarket trunnions, and all this shit, that the stock push rods are just too short. So that will be to be continued. There's a lot that goes into building an engine. But yeah, mobile mechanic on a Honda Pilot, worked on a car, completely screwed up trans lines, did a brake job, missed a sticking caliper. That was one car. Then they brought me another car from the same mobile mechanic, chasing air-fuel ratio imbalances, putting coils and plugs in, upstream O2 sensor on a Honda. And I was like, all right, the flex pipe's leaking. We need injectors. We're going to need to decarbon the valves on a 150,000 mile Honda. So, like, this dude was throwing the parts cannon at it. Hopefully we'll get that straightened out. More fun shit coming your way next week. Or even tomorrow. Thanks for watching.